Helldivers 2 seems to be a smash hit, and we're going to sit down this week and discuss it with 30 and Still Gaming. Server issues, capacity, patches, AFK, all these things that were making it tough for people to play. But we wanted to sit down and talk about why we think this game is so good. But beyond that, asking the question, what is next? When do they start talking roadmap? When do they start dropping new content? They've made some changes in-game and done some things with the Galactic map. So thanks so much for being here, Mike, to discuss this. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Every week on Friday, we sit down with Mike. It's usually the second show. We were going to try to do like a 45-minute gameplay session with Pacific Drive, but then I heard that the first hour is kind of rough, and I was like, well, that's not going to make for a good gameplay session. Usually the streams before Mike are a little shorter, and sometimes that's great. We get to showcase a game. Other times, it doesn't end up working out. So we ended up pivoting and doing the show a little bit early. We also switched topics, which made it kind of tough for me. And on the topic of Helldivers 2, all members, make sure you guys are here tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, for Community Game Night. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be fun. We got a lot of great ideas for this game because, Mike, this game is fun. Like, it's delivering on everything that people kind of want out of a game like this, and I don't think they even expected it to hit the threshold that it did. So give me your quick flyover of your impressions and review of this game, how much time you spent in it, where you've kind of landed with it.
I have around 32 hours in it right now. I'm just about to break level 20. I've go in solo, I go in with a group, I go in with randos. Like, I'm having a blast the entire time. Like, even by myself, when I'm playing the game, it's at a lower level, it feels good. I play about medium by myself.
Okay.
And then when I bring a group in, we've done challenging, and I haven't gone above that yet. I'm waiting to get couple of extra pieces of gear to unlock before I go into the challenge, more than challenging, like 5, 6 level and whatnot. But it's everything about this game. It just clicks. It's just a fun time. The guns feel good. The gameplay feels good. The loop feels good. I really like the different types of side missions and main missions that you have. Like, I don't know what it is. The attention to detail to them, just like the fuel depot where you have to hook up the fuel line, or you're changing the radar tower, or taking out the eggs or helping people escape from the robots. You know what I mean? Like, just every little side mission and stuff is just really good attention to detail, and I like the feel of it. It's just a good game. It's a fun game, and that's what games I think should be.
I said yesterday that I think one of the reasons this game is really clicking with people is there is so much very, very evidential player impact. Like, there's so much you do just from when you're shooting an enemy to the pieces and parts flying off or them getting stunned, the way your barrages sort of disrupt and even destroy buildings, so the landscape's sort of changing. And I do think friendly fire plays a role here, right? You got to be super careful. So when you actually thread the needle with a barrage or something, it ends up feeling very satisfying when you're working together on. Yeah. We've got your gameplay running here. You guys are working on a charger, and I think that is just something that never gets old. When you feel that direct player feedback of, oh, I'm impacting the game. But I also think why it doesn't get as repetitive as you would think, because I think on paper, we watch these trailers, I was like, that's going to be a good game. I was like, that's going to be a fun game. It's always fun to have a knock-around game with your buddies. But the gameplay feels so dynamic and so emergent. Just last night, I've been playing this with my wife. She's actually kind of getting into it. Like, she gets grumpy if somebody takes her gun, or, if she does not like the laser rover because it shoots her a lot by accident. She's like, why? She's like, I'm dying from my teammates more than the enemies. I was like, yeah, it goes that way sometimes. But as we were playing last night, we ended up in this sort of like valley, and it was red and smoky fog. We couldn't see anything, and it was so creepy. And they're coming out of the fog while we're having to hold this position. And I was like, I have played, like you, I'm over 30 hours. I had never had a game go that way. And I keep saying that. I'm like, I've never had the game flow this way. Talk about that a little bit. How much do you think that's playing a role in sort of that longevity and that lack of repetition, how it feels different every time?
Yeah, so we were on the podcast last night. Me and Sarge were talking, and Sarge's like, "Where's the complaining about the terrain? Just looks boring, right? Because Starfield, just think about this for a second, right? If this was Starfield and the planets were just as bare as they are here, it's copy pasta. Like here's a thing, here's a thing. You know what I mean? Like the buildings look the same. No one's complaining about that. Why? Because there's things to do and it keeps you distracted. So like what you're talking about with that fog rolling in, the light hitting, right? And then all of a sudden it's dynamic where if you take out one of those pods, all of a sudden the fog clears, right? Or all of a sudden you rain down a ballistic or the laser comes down. Just it constantly changes. So it's so simplistic looking, but at the same time, it's because everything's changing dynamically around you. The music picks up, it gets you entertained. All of a sudden, a pod will come out of the ground, and all of a sudden, you have to get take them out, or robot dropship comes in. It's just constantly giving you entertainment, and I think that's what makes it great, right? It's almost like when you play an open world game and you're like running like Hogwarts Legacy or Assassin's Creed, when you're running from one point to the next, it's like that 45-second of loop. Like they keep you engaged, right? This is you're not running around more than 10 seconds without going like, oh, object there to pick up. I need some resources. There's a door to break open. Oh, a patrol's coming over this way. I got to do the radar tower. There's always something to do in the small map. I mean, it's a nice, decent sized map. I'm excited to see if they change the map size later down the road, when they add more content or whatnot.
Yeah, and one of the things that, folks have been talking about is, I've seen some people that been negative about it, and they're like, well, it's just kind of the same thing over and over again. And I'm like, well, I don't think that that's true. I also think games like this, that's going to be, at some level, that is true, right? Where you are going to repeat the actions over and over again. But this is something I said in sort of my initial, impressions of the game, is they've achieved, or at least targeted, what I feel like is excellence in every category. So just sound design, everything sounds great. And then the lighting, if something explodes, or, you're using a flamethrower here.
Look at that fire, though.
Yeah, that fire, though, right? That's a big shout out to way back. But, the explosions, the muzzle flare, if it's dark and all of a sudden your turret gun just starts going crazy and just lights up the whole area, they just really made sure every little piece has like a polish to it. And the funny thing is this is actually, they've said, like a really old engine. I guess like nobody really uses this engine anymore, which is incredible.
Engine. Yeah, it's an abandoned engine. I read an article yesterday about it. It's an engine that the people that created that engine also went on to make another engine, and they abandoned that engine too. So the people that created this engine and the next engine, they abandoned both of those engines. So they had to like meal piece things together, and they had no one to, like, no tech support to call up and be like, hey, what do we do here? They all had to kind of just figure it out and do it, and I think that's pretty cool.
I think the only times I've gotten frustrated, it's the good kind of frustration. Like if you've ever played a game and there's certain enemies or things where you're like, oh, I hate those guys. I think it's appropriately frustrating sometimes. Like I'm not actually like angry or salty. It's like, come on. And it's when you kill a charger and another one and then another one and then another one. And you're like, can we get a break from these chargers, bro? And I think that's good, because what it does is it doesn't feel like this rehearsed thing where, well, I've killed one or two chargers and now we're safe. No, it truly feels like you're on an alien world, bro. It could turn on you, and having to kind of run and adapt, and you're low on ammo or you're out of stratagems because the timers run out, like all those different things that can apply pressure to where it doesn't feel like other live service games where I come down, I know the enemies come out here, I know there's 4 of them. Once I kill those 4, I get to move on. No, it's like, dude, you can get completely bombarded even on, we were doing just level 4s last night because I'm just chilling on my couch, right? Like my wife and I aren't like pro gamers with headsets on, like, all right, go left, go right. And even on a level 4, we had a couple runs where we're like, dude, that almost didn't go well. We almost didn't make it out. And that's something that I think the recipe there of making it genuinely feel like you almost didn't make it. You almost didn't get out. Like they apply pressure in such a smart way, and it doesn't feel like it swings on you. Now, I know once you go up into the upper difficulties, it can kind of swing. maybe talk a little bit about the differences between the bugs and the automatons, because they do play very differently. Like, my wife was not happy last night. She's like, why aren't we fighting the bugs? Who are these robots? She did not like the robots, So, maybe talk a little bit about that, the differences, because I'm assuming there's going to be lots more different enemy types in the future.
All right, so they've done 2 patches since, so a couple days ago when we played the robots, playing on, like, hard felt like playing on, like, super difficult, right? Like, it was ridiculous. But yet you can go to challenging on the bugs and feel like you can maintain. Like, the robots, man, they are intense, and it's so, pardon my French, but badass. It's badass when you're going up against them, and all of a sudden, like, on the screen now you see the fog with the bugs. Have you fought the robots in the fog where all you see is the red eyes going through the fog, and then all the laser beams just shooting through? It feels like Star Wars. It feels like it just feels so awesome. And it's terrifying when you play on a harder difficulty with those robots, man, and they have the chainsaws and they're coming after you, and then the tanks roll up on you, and then the drop ships come in. It's intense. It's like it's like Terminator. And then you go to the bugs and you're like, oh, it's like 2 separate movies, right? You're either going to be in the Terminator movie or you can be in Starship Troopers. And they both feel really good. They feel the same, but yet they feel completely different at the exact same time. And it just feels, I don't know. I can't even describe the words, the way that the developers have done this with the gameplay. Like, it could easily go wrong and be boring, but the way the stuff happens dynamically, and I don't even know if they've been messing with anybody yet, really, to be honest with you, because they've been worried about the servers and whatnot. Because I heard a story where they thought the player base was going to be a lot smaller, so it'd be a more like intimate type of thing where the developers would go into people's games and be like the dungeon masters. And I think they're doing that, but they're so overwhelmed with how many people are playing their game. It's like, how often are they right now doing that to people? I think it's just happening dynamically by itself right now in the games. So it's very interesting the way their plan is for this game. Very interesting.
They could always add that later and let players say, hey, I want to go mess with somebody's game, right? You'd limit how much they could do. Right. But that would be so fun as a streamer to be like, all right, guys, we're going to go mess with some people today. Let's see who can win. We're gonna throw people some curveballs. Like, give us the ability to be the dungeon master.
That would be interesting. Yeah,
that would be awesome. Like, and I think they need to think about that, because this game is nothing like Fortnite, but it reminds me of Fortnite, because in the early days of Fortnite Battle Royale, it was the clips, it was the creativity, it was people riding rockets, it was all of this sort of community created virality, and that's what people are doing. There's these funny clips. Did you see the clip of the 2 guys arguing about his left leg? Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
It's like, that's exactly why this game is so good, because it literally leans heavily on the player. It says, here's kind of a playground, here's the general rules, just go do stuff, just see, just kind of see what happens. And I think that's why they need to lean into that. Like, let us do the Dungeon Master. Let us maybe create a mode where you can play RTS style as the bugs. Like, you're up above and you're like telling the bugs where to go, and there's real players on the ground like trying to survive. There's so much potential here. And on the subject of what you were talking about, with the differences between the bugs and the robots, you and I played Destiny for years. And something I always said about Destiny was, the gameplay loop was super satisfying, gunplay probably unmatched in PvE, next to maybe Titanfall 2 as a PvE shooter for the campaign, having just such satisfying shooting. But I always told people that the differences in the enemies was somewhat of an illusion, because whether you were fighting the Cabal or the Hive, the differences were minor. You weren't changing much as the player, right? No. You were doing your super and your grenade and your shooting generally the same. I said, if I could record footage of somebody playing against the Hive and the Cabal, and then I could click a button and remove the enemies, you would notice that the players don't do much different. It's kind of the same. Right. That is not true for this game. Like, you play very, very differently. I was even learning last night, okay, turrets are really strong against the robots. You don't want to use like the orbital beam that follows. Right. You don't want that against the robots, because they get right up in your face. You're killing your own teammates. It's not like the charger, everybody knows to kind of get away and the beams on him. So even then, like, I'm changing stratagems, I'm changing strategies. It's like, no, we got to play this differently. I got to take in different stuff. That's the secret sauce for this game's longevity. Because then you add new planets, new enemies. You can add new stratagems. Like, well, these enemies, you got to use a whole new arsenal of weapons that they could introduce that are more effective. How do you think, maybe talk about that too, like, how do you think they handle that, the longevity, like keeping it going? What are they going to do with this game?
You're talking about like a roadmap type of thing?
We could talk roadmap in a little bit, maybe talk more content style. Like, what could they do so that you don't feel like, yeah, I've already done this for the 100th time?
Well, see, the roadmap and type of what I'm about to say kind of mixes together, so I'll try to stay away from the roadmap. But if they bring in certain factions into the game, that changes the whole dynamic, right? If they just add another faction that we have no idea about, or just keeping the game the same, but now all of a sudden the robots are pushing more towards Super Earth, right? What does that mean? Right? What does it choose your own adventure as a community? We're not holding them back. They took over that planet. Now, what does that mean for our defenses, right? Maybe all of a sudden we lose something where our ships can't call down certain stratagems. You know what I mean? Like, all of a sudden they're like, oh, the robots took over the plant where, you know, this radar tower is, and now we can't use these stratagems for this next 2 weeks or whatever. That would be, you know, bad. But at the same time, like, pretty cool. You're like, oh, damn, we can't use that. So I really like that. Even in the game itself, there's when you go up against the robots, you have to take out the AA guns, because if you can't call in certain things, right? Like, little things like this changes the whole dynamic of what you're doing. And like you were saying with the actual gun, like, if you put your turret down and you waste it on the small little bugs, or even just the cheapy robots, okay, and then all of a sudden the big tank shows up, and now you have to wait 2 minutes, right? You have to wait your strategy. You're like, you got to run around with your head chopped off until, hey, where's that orbital strike coming in? When's this coming in? Oh, I got 2 minutes. Just that communication when you're talking to somebody. I've played with groups that don't speak at all. It's possible, but when you play with people that are speaking, oh, what a great feeling. It reminds me of the days of Battlefield back in the day. It reminds me of the days of playing even Hell Let Loose. Hell Let Loose is a fantastic game where you have to communicate a lot. This has got that mixture of both of Hell Let Loose, Battlefield back in the day, even Call of Duty back in the day when people actually like played and not just try to get those kill streaks going. This game has a nice balance with everything, and it constantly changes. Where last night we played 7, we had to go up against 7 Chargers at the same time. Okay, you can't plan for that. You just happen to throw your turret down the other time and already used it, and now you're like, well, I got 3 minutes before that happens. What do you got? Well, I'm low on ammo. Resupplies in 2 minutes. What do we do? So you got to try to chase them around, throw your grenades, try to get a precision orbital strike on them if you can, and then all of a sudden you throw it, it hits them, sticks to them, but then they move, right? And then you kill your teammates or something. It's so good on how it changes constantly. And going in the future with the different stratagems that they could add, or all of a sudden, what about if you, big boss, all of a sudden you call in a tank. They airdrop a tank, or they airdrop some sort of mech on the ground for you, and then one of you guys get in. And then I love the co-op. If you're using the railgun, and then someone has the backpack on, then you can help them load the thing in, and it's much more efficient than if you're by yourself. Like, these little things that they do, they can keep adding stuff like this to make it feel better. What about if they did an 8-man mission, right? Matchmaking, 8-man team, or 16-man team. I don't want to like hype it up like they're going to do this, but it's possibility of endlessness of what they possibly could do.
Yeah, we know they are bringing a mech. That was the first confirmed post-launch content we got during the state of play. At the end of the trailer, they showed a mech, and that was the first time they confirmed there would be post-launch content, and we all kind of assumed there would be. And I like the idea, too, of they're very much against PvP. They're like, we're not going to do PvP. But I think it would be very fun to say, all right, Helldivers, you know, we know you guys like to compete. We know you guys like to brag about how much freedom and democracy you're spreading. We're going to put you against another team to see who can rack up the most points, skills, whatever. And you'd have to turn off team damage between, like, you wouldn't want one team to grief another and, like, come start throwing stratagems on you. you want to maintain friendly fire, but you wouldn't want the other team to be able to like hurt you. There's so much they could do with this. Like, we have even fun community game ideas that we're going to do tonight, where we're going to go to like the super low difficulty areas, and I'm going to turn off everybody's names, and we'll play hide and seek or something. Or we'll do quick draw stratagems, like who can pull out their stratagem the fastest, and you're trying to drop it on the other guy, right? And so
right.
Whoever wins. And so there's so much you could do just creatively. Like, I am glad they're like, no, we're not going to do PvP. Do you think in the realm, because PvP always gets on the subject of like, I'm like, please no PvP, because then they would immediately have to be balancing things, right? Because somebody says, well, that's PvP then. Not necessarily. Like, a friendly competition to see who gets the most points is way different than other people being able to shoot you and blow you up, because then there's all the complaints about, oh, that's too powerful, that's too strong. Like, if you shoot another player right now, they die like instantly. Like, there's no like time to kill. It's just, did you shoot them or not? So, do you think there's anything right now, though, that is clearly sort of not balanced well? Because I do feel some of the guns are just terrible. And then I think you're using the breaker shotgun in this footage. That gun's my go-to. It's excellent. Like, it feels like it's got incredible range. It just chunks through, regardless of whether it's an automaton or a bug.
Put that baby on full auto, it just destroys.
So have you come across anything where you feel like, well, this is utterly worthless, they need to tweak this? Because when you get into a balancing discussion, I hope their philosophy is, let's raise the weak things. I don't want to see them push down anything that feels good and powerful right now.
There's a lot of stuff that I watched on YouTube where they said don't use this, so I haven't purchased it myself to use it. So the stuff that I've purchased, like, I like the flamethrower, but it's not my go-to. I was testing it out here in the footage that we're watching. This was my first time using it. I was like, all right, let's see what it does against the bugs and stuff like that.
Okay.
I haven't used it back. Now I'm either still using the breaker, the shotgun, or I went to the penetrator, which is the Liberator penetrator, which is, I think, on page 6, I think it is. And then I'm also wearing armor now, where I get 30% more accuracy if I'm crouched or prone. So I'm using that more. And then I have a 75 zoom on there doing bursts. So I'm like doing a completely different like strategy instead of getting up in the moment with the flamethrower. Because not only was I setting myself on fire, but I was also setting my teammates on fire with the flamethrower.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's something that I haven't come across yet that I thought was like, there's a couple of stratagems that you use, sort of like the walking orbital one. Very powerful, but it's too like spread. So like, think about if like the guys are in the center and you throw that orbital right in the middle, it's not going to hit anybody because it like shoots far to the right, far to the left, and sporadic to the back, then to the like, and it like walks it back, but it doesn't really do a lot of damage. So it's good for like if you're getting eggs, or if you're bombarding like a facility that's overrun and you might get a couple of kills here or there. The ones that are the best are like the orbital ones. It's like 80 seconds to call back. It does really strong damage when you hit certain things. I haven't come across anything myself that I thought was too weak. I just came across stuff that I'm like, I don't like it, like the flamethrower, or even the laser cannon that I have. I thought the laser cannon was good, but I just have my drone now with the laser cannon, and then I have like the heavy LMG with me, or I'll use the flamethrower, or I'll use something else as the heavy. Even the sniper rifle is a fun gun to use. So I haven't come across anything myself that I thought was too weak.
Yeah, the anti-material rifle, which is basically that's the sniper.
The sniper, yeah. There's another sniper.
I had a thing where I had to get like so many kills with it, so I was using it. And I was using it as my primary. I found enough little ammo boxes, because those are a lifesaver. You don't always want to be having to wait on a resupply. And I was using it as my primary, and I played completely differently. And I thought, that's another thing that I think is really smart, is softly nudging the player. I would have never used that. I was like, I'm not really a sniper. I typically go for, I'm the brute, give me something strong, and then that's all I'm going to use. I'm going to just wail on the enemy with it. And so I was actually really appreciative of like, okay, they motivated me to use this anti-material rifle, and I used it, and I was so hungry to get the kills that I basically used it as a primary, and it felt really good. It sort of changed the flow of the combat. And my wife will just throw down a turret anytime we get into a fight, which can be kind of funny because as soon as it lands, I'm like, babe, everything's...
Stay away from it.
Yeah, like I'll be like, everything's dead, babe. You took too long, because she's like sitting there, slowly putting the code in. And she's like, why is she's like, everything's dead already. But there were a couple times where I was like, oh, babe, you shouldn't have thrown that. And all of a sudden, a bunch more enemies show up, and her turret's just shredding. So I like that, too, that even somebody playing in a very, very different way, or maybe what you consider is like, well, that's not optimized. I'm not like scolding her. I was like, babe, you got to kind of hold those for when we're, entrenched at a station or waiting. And she's just kind of playing how she wants, and it ends up working anyways. And I think that is just another thing that is incredible. I have to shout this out. That's unbelievable. Yep. Lotus Esprit with a 50-member bomb. Good night. That's going to take over chat. Mike and I are just going to keep on talking, though. That is so generous and kind. Thank you. And I actually think that's something that's going to appeal to a lot of players, because there is no right or wrong way to play. But this matchmaking problem, you and I both know from our history with Destiny, you got to let those single players, they got to be able to jump in and play. Do you think that's a potential challenge given how hard the game can get? Do you think people will kind of enjoy living in the low levels? Because you and I know people lived in the public spaces and strikes in Destiny, and they never touched a Nightfall. They never touched a raid or a dungeon. So there are a lot of those players. Do you think this game can do that? Can it capture that layer of player is so important? The guys, the casual work-a-day moms and dads and busy college students and people like that, like they're just going to want to play a little bit, but they're not going to want it to be super hard, and they also are just going to want to lean on matchmaking. Maybe talk about that. Like, do you think that this game has that potential for people to live in the low levels and still have a good time?
Absolutely. I think if you're playing on was it trivial, easy, medium, challenging, you could go as you get better with the game and as you unlock more things with the medals and through the battle pass and whatnot. Like if you get that drone and you're playing solo and you're high enough to get that drone, you could easily do medium by yourself. At least for the bugs. I don't know about the robots. If you're again skill level player, whoever you are, differs. But there's definitely a group of people that'll just play this game solo just to run around and take their time. I literally do it on purpose. Like I go in, put it on friends only. And then I know they won't get any matchmaking in, and then I just go in. I've been doing medium levels by myself, and just going around the whole map, because a lot of randos, I don't know why. I read an article and they said, I don't know if someone's got a birthday party to go back to on the ship, but they just drop in, do the main mission, and then extract as fast as possible. And I don't want that. I want to go around the map and take my time and get all the stuff. Right? I've already got enough money from the premium currency that I found to buy the premium pass. I didn't spend anything except for the money I bought the game for. So now I'm working my way up the premium battle pass along with the regular battle pass. And a lot of people, I think, don't want to be rushed. And a lot of people just want to kind of figure it out on their own. And I think they can do that with this game. I think there is a spot where a lot of people will play solo. I think even down the road, I think they'll even let it where you, instead of just saying public friend, they'll just say private, and they'll let it private so people don't get anyone to join them unless they choose to and opt in, where they throw that reinforcement or request down for someone to jump in.
Yeah, Dark Taco is saying in chat that he is having a great time. He's level 16, plays on Trivial all the time, likes the slow-paced, relaxed style. Zubair's saying it has that vibe of just kind of running some strikes in Destiny. And
just do it solo.
I'm telling you, that's a recipe for longevity, because the secret to these live service games that just keeps getting lost is, I've talked about this a lot, where they're so focused on, well, we'll just do a battle pass and we'll just do skins. And it's like, no, I've always said, if you're not prepared to answer what I call not technical questions, but psychological questions, then your game has no shot. Because why? Like, why will I keep playing? Why will I keep coming back? And I don't know if did these guys stumble in to this? Did they stumble in backwards into this sort of, oh man, everybody's loving this game and having a blast? Or did they think through all those little dopamine hits, all those little satisfying touches that this game has that you just keep wanting to come back and play? Like the psychological nature of what makes you want to keep coming back and playing this game, and it extends beyond just the gameplay. There's the Galactic War Table. There's the memes. There's the, people, the clips they're putting on Twitter, and people are like doing recruitment videos and getting into the propaganda of it, right? Do you think they knew that this was going to be the appeal or how it was going to work? Because they are completely blindsided by the popularity here.
I think they knew they had a game, because I've been watching. I didn't know what Helldivers was, I'll be honest, because when the Helldivers 1 came out, I was face into Destiny, right? That's all I was playing. I was playing Destiny. So I never played Helldivers 1. And yes, and I owned a PlayStation and I owned a PC back then. I could have, I don't know if it was on PlayStation, but my point is that nobody really paid attention to what Helldivers 1 was. I've been watching a lot of videos of Helldivers 1. It's the exact same game. Okay. The only difference is it's top down, right? It's a
right.
twin stick like shooter type of thing. And when it's the same type of feel, and I think they said, it's not that popular because a lot of people don't like the top down type of stuff, right? I mean, there was plenty of people that played Grand Theft Auto back in the day when it was originally top down. But when it went to third person 3D and you could drive around the world of Liberty City, that's when it took off, right? Same thing. Halo was originally an RTS game by Apple. It was for Apple. And then they scrapped it and turned it into what Halo became. And it was a hit. So I think they knew they had a good game. And again, I'm just saying it. I've never talked to these guys, I think they knew they had a good foundation of a game. And then when they put it into the third person aspect of this, I think they knew it was going to be good, but they didn't know it was going to be this popular, right? Everybody wants their game to be popular, but they don't know it's going to be popular. You know what I mean? And so this went above and beyond what they thought was going to get. They thought, oh, this is going to be better than what we did before, but they didn't think it was going to be this popular. So
yeah, I mean, there's guys in chat, like Dark Taco said he put 300 hours in Helldivers 1. Russell Stewart says it's amazing how they translated it. It's a joy having been a fan of the first. And this is one of those times where it makes me think of Rocket League and how Rocket League was something they made internally just for themselves. And they were just in it. And then that's, a huge game now. Very popular. Everybody knows
ESPN.
It. Yeah. Right. And this does. Zubair said, is like, well, they made a game that they wanted to make. And this touches on something I've talked about a lot recently, that I think the future is one where you're going to see a lot of the big studios either lay off a bunch of people or they're going to shut down. And we're going to see an explosion of not necessarily the little indie studios that are 10 people deep, but the 100 to 200 AA studio that can take those risks, have a little bit more agility, adapt their game to be like, oh, maybe some trends are changing, maybe what people like are changing, and deliver a game in that $40 to $50 range. I think that's going to be a future sort of aspect of gaming, because the big budget, big AAA studios, it's going to be harder and harder for them to keep delivering on, here's a $70 game, here's this massive game. I think that's just more and more difficult to do, because we're seeing Kill the Justice League was the third most sold game in January, and it fell below expectations. It didn't meet Warner Brothers' expectations. Right. And everyone's like, oh, it's a failure, it's a failure. And I'm like, can you imagine being the third most sold game in January on both PlayStation, on Xbox, in North America, and being like, yeah, you didn't sell enough? It's like, well, yeah, because the game was in production for a really long time. It's huge budget, big studio. There's licensure and royalty shares. We saw with the Marvel games with the Insomniac leaks what these companies want as far as unit sales, right? So I think folks are going to look at a game like this and say, well, holy cow, a AA studio just took over the world, and the POW World, they're not a big studio, and their game took over. I actually think you're going to see a big, maybe not resurgence, but we're going to see growth of that kind. What do you think? Do you see this being a trend? These smaller studios. That's kind of a theme that's emerging this year. Is the smaller studios are standing really tall.
I played 4 games so far this year. I've played Power World, $30. Right. I've played Suicide Squad, $70. I've played Helldivers, which is $40, and I've played Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, which is $10. And let me tell you, okay, Power World, fantastic. And that's an early access, by the way. That's an early access game. That's not a complete game, and it's $30. And you can have a blast. I have, I think, 35, 40 hours in that game. Then Suicide Squads, I have 70, almost 80 hours in. And now it's a fun game. I like the story, the single-player story, but that's $70. And what I paid $40 for Helldivers, I'm approaching that time. I will blow past what I put in Suicide Squad with this game easily. And then when I was waiting for Helldivers, because the servers were crap, okay, I picked up Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, which is a vampire survivor type of game. Phenomenal game. I suggest anyone go out and look at this game. If you like a vampire survivor, Brotato, anything like that, check out Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. Less than $10, which is less than a microtransaction from a AAA studio, okay, in any of those games. And it's a early access game, and it's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal game. I'm having a blast.
Does it have co-op?
It does not have co-op. It's just
okay.
a single player.
I wasn't expecting that. I just wondered, like, hey, Deep Rock Galactic, maybe they brought co-op to the Survivor.
Yeah, no, it's just a single player game, and they've already surpassed the first year of what Deep Rock Galactic sold in their first game. They sold in a week with this game. Okay, so it's a phenomenal game, and I think a lot more studios are looking at this, and I think a lot of people, I think we're going to have to see a lot of clones of Helldivers come in the next 2-3 years, okay, where, like, imagine a Halo game, right, of ODST, of, like Helldivers.
Well,
right?
they said they internally pitched games like this. Yeah. The Halo team did, and they're like, oh my gosh. They're like, we had this idea.
Yeah. Think of the Star Wars Bad Batch, or a game like this, right? You see what I'm saying? There's, like, so many games that you could do just based off of what this type of game is. And I think more studios, more publishers are going to look at this and go, what's the budget of that? And of course, they're not all going to be like this. But if you're not putting $300 million into a game, you don't have to sell 7 million copies, right? You can put $50 million into a game and sell 2 million copies or 3 million copies, right? Or even less than that, and be good with it, right? And I think we're seeing a swing real quick, because this is what what's the popular one right now? Extraction shooters, right? A lot more extraction shooters are coming out. And now people are looking at this and they're like, 2 years from now, we're going to have more games, PvE, co-op games that are going to hit the market, and you're going to be like, oh, I'm kind of over this now. You know what I mean? Like, they're late to the party, but they're all going to come out at the exact same time. And that's just the way it works, right? When something's hot, everyone stops doing what they're doing. They put a team on it to see what they can come up with. I mean, look at Fortnite. They spent 8 years making Fortnite. It bombed in 3 months. They flipped as fast as possible and made a battle royale. Now look at it. Now it's amazing. So yeah, I think we do see a lot more AA smaller studios, like you said, like 100, less than 100. Look at No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky is still successful. They have 24 people, 26 people making that game, and they're making another game. So I think we see a lot more swing in the industry for smaller studios, smaller budgets, and more fun.
Super chat from Akuta Papa, $5, says, reports have been saying Bungie helped Arrowhead with multiple game of service elements. Those reports are unsubstantiated. Somebody falsely claimed that VG247 reported that. I have not been able to find a single report that has taken place. And I would imagine the CEO would have said something. He's been super transparent, like, hey, we love Bungie. They were really helpful. I think this game was too close to shipping for Bungie to have much input, right? They
started in 2016. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and Bungie had to get onboarded, and seemingly once they were onboarded, if you go look at the slides of when PlayStation acquired them and all that, they had to get onboarded, and I believe the first thing they took a look at was The Last of Us online, because that was more important to PlayStation. Like, hey, this is Naughty Dog, this is Last of Us, is this going to work or not? Helldivers was already at some level proven as a concept with the first game, so I don't think they would have been high on the priority list for Bungie to look at. So if Bungie had input, great, but I don't actually know if Bungie would have been able to turn the rudder much. Like, this game was very close to shipping by the time Bungie had been onboarded. And I think Zubair asked a very good question. He said, are these studios that we're calling AA, are they the size of AAA studios from 20 years ago, 15 years ago? I'm like, wait, maybe that's the ticket, right? Are we falling into the mistake, or maybe not we, but the industry of falling into the mistake of bigger is better? Bigger studios means we can make it faster. But I do think there is, and I don't know what this is called, but I think there's a sweet spot for efficiency. You can have way too many people, and that hurts your efficiency. It starts to fold back in on itself. And I think we're seeing that. I think you're going to see a bit of a mushrooming effect that's going to kind of pop, and you're going to see things settle, and there'll be more of those smaller studios emerge that can blast onto the scene with a $40 or $50 low entrance cost game. That's what I love about gaming is the market's always going to stabilize in some way. And so if $80 games or $70 games start to become less common, that will create that space for people to say, yo, 40 or 50 bucks, like, I'm going to snag this. I'm going to try this out. And I think that's going to be an exciting thing to see, because that's where you get a game like Vampire Survivors or V Rising or a Valheim, where they break out and everyone's talking about it, and they get all this massive success. And Palworld now and Helldivers sort of standing tall on the world stage of gaming to say, you do not need some massive budget and some well-known IP to satisfy gamers, and this game is proving it. I want to thank Mike on the mic, $5 super chat. He says, what's up, Mike? Between Helldivers 2 and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, we eatin' good AF. Yeah, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth taking the #1 spot for the year right now on OpenCritic with like a 93. People very, very happy about that. Mike and I aren't really Final Fantasy guys, but that's great for the year. This game is this year is so incredibly full. I was going to play Pacific Drive this morning, and the reviews are good. They're not great. We're hearing like, it's a little bit rough to start out. I think that's going to be one of the challenges this year in particular, is there are so many games that a good game is going to get like lukewarm treatment, or it's going to get ignored. You've got to have almost a virality or this top shelf quality, or there's going to be a big risk. Like, I wonder if there's a lot of devs and studios that are thinking about that, as this year is so jam-packed. It'll be so easy to be overshadowed and almost ignored. I want to talk a little bit about, too, the player base split, because the nature of that discussion is, well, PC's carrying it, because I think people are misunderstanding Steam charts. They're like, well, servers are at capacity, and there's 409,000 people playing on PC, so that must mean there's only 41,000 people playing on PlayStation. And it's like, well, no, PC guys are sitting in queue. The same thing happened with New World. Where do you see the player base split? Before you answer, I'm going to quickly think of Super Chat, and then I want to get your thoughts on player base split. Mog's Emulation Station with a $20 Super Chat tip says, did the devs know what they had? We had hopes, but you keep your excitement in check in game dev. What I find beautiful is people's gameplay videos surrounding identical to our weekly playtests. Oh, sounding identical. Was at AHGS 2017 to 2023. Oh, you're saying we had hopes. So we might have, do we have one of the devs in chat? Would love for, some of your input on some of the stuff we're talking about, maybe even player-based split if you know. We had those numbers that first week. Do you see this leaning toward one platform over another?
I do. I think PC's, again, no numbers, just the feeling. I think it's like a 60-40 split. I think it's 60 on PC, 40 on PlayStation, at least. Like first week, sure. 50-50. They came out and said it was close to 50-50. I think it's leaning more towards a 60-40 now with PC. This is right up the alley for PC players, and I think it might be more, but I think it's a 60-40 split for PC.
Okay. I misunderstood that Super Chat. They were saying they were at Arrowhead Game Studios from 2017 to 2023. I read that so quickly that didn't take root in my brain. They're no longer there. They said, I left in the middle of last year, a bit sad about not having been there for the final push, but it's been amazing to see people having a blast. Hey man, they need people. They're hiring. Get back over there. Go back and work with them. They need people, and you were there. You're familiar. That resume is probably pretty juicy, I would think. They need some help right now. NDAs are still in place after leaving, so I can only refer to public statements, but the CEO has quoted it stating it was roughly 50-50. He is kind of avoiding that question now. He said that like week one and has not. I asked him directly. Other people have asked him. I think he's kind of avoiding it. I don't think he wants to feed the tribalism because there are people that are like, yeah, well, PC's carrying it. And it's like, even if it's 60-40, I don't care. Tons of people are playing. What? Who cares?
As a gamer, I don't care what the split is. I'm just saying I think it's more people on PC. Know what's funny about this game? Everyone's like, this is the Starship Troopers game we really wanted. This is and in my head, that's a lot of console players saying that because there is a Starship Troopers game. It came out last year in early access, and it's on PC, and it did pretty well for what it is. So when I say the 60-40 split, it's going off of people that are playing Starship Troopers on PC, and now they have this as well while they're waiting for that game to be done, because that game's in early access and it's a 16-player PvE, type of game, and it's a lot of fun. It feels like Starship Troopers, but it's not officially Starship Troopers because doesn't have the real music or anything like that, because technically, I believe Sony, or under the umbrella of Sony, Starship Troopers is owned by like Columbia Pictures or something like that, and which owns the rights to actual Starship Troopers. So there is a Starship Troopers game on PC, very fun. Okay, I think it's also $30 early access, but Helldivers is out, and people are like, "Oh, dude, this is the Starship Trooper game we all wanted." So that's why I'm leaning more towards, because this is a game that fits the PC player base more than the consoles. Consoles, I feel like it's a popular thing. People will play it and they'll drop it, and it's not a bad thing. But it's just more things for them to do as far as other games coming out like Final Fantasy, other first-party titles, other third-party titles that are coming out on PlayStation, where they'll drop it, where this'll live on PC for years to come.
Well, and the developer that worked on it saying all players are beautiful. It doesn't matter what vehicle they use to reach their destination. I agree with the CEO not wanting to feed that sort of thing. Agreed. And another big 20 gifted member. I've got to plug this, guys. Tonight, we're going to do it's going to be a public stream. We're going to do Helldivers community games. We've got a bunch of fun community games that we made up to play in the game where we're going to like shoot each other or try to drop stuff on each other. It's going to be a blast. And if you're getting a gifted membership, you want to be here tonight because you get first priority. Thank you so much, Lotus, for that 20. That is massive. And you guys need to make sure as well to smash that like button if you're enjoying the show. I do this show every Friday with Mike. We take whatever we think is the biggest topic or the most interesting topic. And Mike pivoted us today. We were going to talk Xbox.
I didn't want to talk about that.
But he was like, I want to talk Helldivers. And I was like, you know what? I do too. Like, it's just a really, really fun game. And it's really exciting to see it do so well. But the question is, does it have staying power? When do you think they got to start talking roadmap? Because I said, and I'm curious what you think, I said around that third week, you got to do something. You got to put a message in the game. You got to say, here's the roadmap, because around that third week, people are going to start to drift. You hit that fourth week, and then we're going to see all the clickbait headlines. Helldivers 2 has lost 40% of its gaming community, because people don't understand what concurrent players are, and they don't understand that we don't know what unique logins are daily or weekly, but, they'll run with the headline. I can see the future. It's amazing, right? When that happens, they want to kind of be in front of that, to be like, hey, man, come back. We're going to do fun stuff. When do you think they need to start talking roadmap and content plans?
Okay, this is going to be weird because I don't think they should do a roadmap like the traditional sense of here's when the mech's coming out, here's when this gun's coming out, here's when this new armor's coming out.
Okay.
None of that.
Okay.
I think just like they do their Twitter account, like when there's a bug happening, the servers are down because the automatons are holding it hostage. You know what I mean? Like they're in character the entire time. All their tweets and stuff like that, all their messaging inside the game, where all of a sudden 2 weeks or a week ago, the robots are making a push. We have to push them back. They don't do any kind of roadmap out loud. They do a roadmap by going, Diver, we got new equipment coming in. Boom. We do a mission. What about this, Lono, right? You do a mission. That mech is not just coming into the game. You got to push and win a planet to get that mech. Okay? So the community rallies around. There's an arm depot that we have to get the mech, right? And you push and get that mech. And then the mech is available for in-game. Like, roadmap, cool. But I think that they have it's a very, very niche game where they can do it, where other companies couldn't do it with other games, right? Like, it doesn't work for like a Suicide Squad. It doesn't work like that for any other game. What they're doing in this game, they can literally drop roadmaps and weapon stuff. You got to go to a weapon depot, and all of a sudden you find a new weapon, right? Like, they can do it in the game without ever saying like, well, in 3 months we're getting this new weapons, new armor. They just tell you this week we got to push and get this. We got to get this new armor depot up and running, and then all of a sudden that stuff comes to the game. I think that's what they should do for the roadmap.
I want to interact with what you're saying so much. This is a great topic. Akuda Papa with a $5 super chat says, from earlier, I've been working through challenging solo. You just need the right stratagems and weapons. Thank you so much. And a $5 super chat from Juice Man says, do you think if the game stays successful, they'll add themes, content in the future like Starship Trooper theme? Oh my gosh. People are asking them to put so much stuff in the game like other games and stuff. Yes, I think they could, but they got to be careful. Their identity is their own, and people love it. People are digging the identity of this game. They're kind of buying into the propagandistic nature of it.
I love giving democracy.
That's right. And I think you want little additive things like that to be, like salt. You want to season it. You don't want it to take over, and you don't want to lose your identity, okay? But I want to interact with what Mike was just saying, because I agree with you. I actually think they have that word of mouth where all of a sudden people are like, wait, why are you playing Helldivers again? And you're like, bro, they did this crazy thing and all the planets run, and everything's frozen and we have to use these new weapons. That, I think, works wonders. But I also think you do have to still think like a business and have to think about marketing where you got to get that touch before they leave. So I do think they maybe want to find a middle ground of... You got to let people know, like, forecasting, like, hey, stuff's coming. Maybe keep it cryptic, right? You just say, look, man, in 2 weeks, something's happening. Like, you just put a date, and you just put some ominous name, and people are like, what the heck is that? We're not going to tell you. I think what you're saying is also true. I think the surprises can sometimes work stronger than traditional marketing, because now everybody's marketing for you. Everybody's making videos and tweets and texting their friends. So I kind of feel like they could do both. I would be in support of both, but I really like what you said, the idea of no, they can do their own thing. They can drop things in the game and just surprise people. I also like the idea of, guys, if you want to get these tanks, these vehicles, these mechs, you got to earn it. You got to earn it as a community. What type of things could you see them adding? People have said mechs and tanks. Where do you see them going beyond that? Because there is that identity of, like, you drop, you're really exposed, it's just you got a gun, you got stratagems. They don't want to go too far with it, right? It's got to stay in that lane.
Yeah, you don't want to give too much too fast, right? So maybe you can give individual, like, mobile vehicles, maybe sort of like a Jeep that's solo, or like a bike that's solo that you can drive around a little faster. But obviously, it's taking one of your stratagem spots, right? So you want to get around the map a little faster, so you can't have an extra spot. So you're using that instead of an orbital strike, or you're using that instead of a heavy LMG. You're getting around the map a little faster. But they have to balance that, right? Do you want to do that where you get around faster, meaning they can get the resources faster, they can do certain things faster? I don't know, right? Maybe it's weak, where if it gets tapped or hit, it's damaged, and then you have to find repair part. I don't know, right? They could do a lot of different things. Maybe they can do where maybe 6 months down the line, all of a sudden you can throw an extra reinforcements and a fifth person can join you. I don't know. There's a lot of things they can bring into this game. Definitely, you don't want to bring in too many weapons too fast, because then what happens if the game is successful and it's like year 3 and they're added the 7th LMG? Like, you have to have different pieces and parts that you want to add to it to give advantages but not be dominant, right? You want to have the lows and highs with each of the things that they add. So if they add a different laser rifle, or a different LMG, or a different pistol, or I don't know, some experimental weapon that we don't even know about yet, right? Be fun with it. I think this game has something that other games wish they could do, where all of a sudden a SOS comes in and it's like, all right, soldiers, we have to get this, and if you fail, we don't get that new weapon for that 2 weeks. But then all of a sudden, another opportunity happens a couple weeks down the road, and they're like, another depot opened up is being attacked. Go there. You know what I mean? And you have another shot at it. I don't know. To me, the potential of this, and again, I don't want to hype it up where if they don't do this stuff, we're like, what a disappointment. I just feel like they're in that very special realm right now because they're so give democracy, since it's so satire and stuff like that with what they're doing with this game. They're pretty open what they can do with it and be very experimental. Mm-hmm. And I'll push back again. I don't think they should do traditional media. I think they could do a Twitter post that says incoming message to Helldivers, and all of a sudden it says, instead of saying in 2 weeks we have this thing coming out, it's propaganda. It comes out, it says soldiers, we have a depot to take care of, and everyone's like, what is that? And then all of a sudden the social media people start doing it, and they're like, dude, if we do this, we unlock this mech. If we do this, we unlock this new nuke. If we do this, we get a new ship, upgrade our ship. Mm-hmm. The ship could be upgradable too. There's that section across the way from where you do your loadout, like behind you. Like, what is that section? Like, what do they have planned for that? There's a lot of things they can add to the ship.
Right.
So there's a lot of stuff they can add.
Well, and something I've always said with games like this is contextual power is such a great way to add lateral things for you to do. And with modifiers as well, there are a ton of weapons right now that they could just add a modifier. And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, for this week, that lightning gun or that incendiary gun, it's crushing because of this modifier. You know, there's storms in the area or there's something going on with the atmosphere. So they have so much they can do within the playground that they've built. And with contextual power, you could say, listen, the automatons have adapted to war, and they now take way more damage to kill with ballistic weapons. We've got this new armory of weapons. We've got these new stratagems that are built to do more damage to them. So you could then have completely new loadouts, completely new things to grind and chase. Gameplay feels fresh. It feels different. Your strategies are changing and shifting. Within what they've built, I was even thinking as you were talking, they could start to lean into stratagems that almost create like a role for the person. Imagine having like this thing on your back and you're mining for materials because you want these samples or whatever, but you can't do anything else. So your buddies have got to protect you. And you start to create these mission types or these quest types where somebody's got to be the dude with the mining equipment on his back. Somebody's got to be the guy, the point man with the bomber or the vehicle. Somebody's got to be the driver. That's always so fun because then you've got to be good at that thing. I think of raids, and I think of the pressure of being attacked or defending or putting down a shield or putting something up, having to put in codes and unlock weapons or different things to fight really huge bosses. You know, if you've got stationary weapons and things that have to be unlocked. Within the playground and within the rules that they have established, I can't stop thinking of ideas of things that they can do. I don't think it's a matter of like, you know, is there other things they can do? It's really a matter of timing and implementation, like you're saying, leveraging the propagandistic sort of virality to say, we can go completely non-traditional with this. Once you've got the audience kind of doing that work for you, that's a power that you can really, really harness well, I think. Wouldn't
it be cool? You know those doors? You ever come across the doors where it's a two-man job? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to, right? What about if they did another one where you have to have 4 people open that door and there's more things in there that you could get, but obviously you need 4 people and you have to find the door. And when you find that door, you have to have all 4 people work together to open that door. What about if that door opens and all of a sudden, again, I'm just a gamer. I love games, right? All of a sudden that door opens and you can go in and it's another like indoor activity, right? And all of a sudden it's a load screen or whatever. You walk in and then all of a sudden now it's a indoor environment instead of just always outdoor. Now you're inside tight quarters, and now you're going up against the automatons inside a bunker, right? Like that would be pretty cool, right? I don't know. I just think there's so many things that they could do with this game, and it's just, of course, my imagination's going wild because I'm excited about the game.
Yeah, I love the idea of suddenly you don't have stratagems because that doesn't happen often. You know, the timer runs out. That's rare,
right?
But that changes everything. It's like, I've got to rely on my gun, my smarts, my grenade, my team. Nobody's getting reinforced at that point. So you've got to be locked in. I love that idea of stripping away elements of your power. Akuta Pop is saying they're already doing this. I guess on certain planets, certain weapons are stronger because of the atmosphere. So again, that is such a great way to get people out of their comfort zone, where a game like this, you can do that. And I did it a couple times already, and it didn't bother me, but it's like, I need this, 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 and this. All right, let's go. And you just know exactly what you're going to take. But then when they do that, they push you out of your comfort zone. They get you to use a different weapon or a different stratagem, or the enemies are different. That's, I think, when you can shake off that familiarity, because we know familiarity breeds contempt. You never want to feel like, yep, I've done this 1,000 times before. I already know what's coming. And that's where this game has that fresh appeal, to where nothing feels rehearsed. It just doesn't. Even when we go to leave, you would think that would kind of start to feel rehearsed. You're like, you know where they're going to come from, or put your turrets down. No, it's chaos every time. Like, it's just insane. Like, I was watching you run from a charger, and he was breaking the walls around you. I didn't know they could do that. So I was like hiding on a corner thinking, guys, there's too many chargers. Let's spread out, and we'll all come back at the end. And I'm standing on this corner, and he comes charging. And luckily, I moved out of the way, and he just chunks through the corner of the wall. And I'm like, that's the magic of this game, is that it truly does feel like it's emergent. It's totally different every time. So even though it's familiar, because you want it to be familiar enough for the player to have efficiency, it doesn't feel rehearsed. And I think that's the magic of this game.
Yeah, I love being a support guy, right? I played with a bunch of randoms the other day, and I was just carrying the backpack with the support, and then I was running around giving support, like, ammo to people. Like, you're out, there you go. I have extra stems. I'm stabbing people and keeping them so they don't have to use theirs, right? Like, then I call the resupply. Then while they are still killing things, I'm getting the resupply. I load up my stuff so I can help them out, right? And then I'll take some pot shots at people. It's a phenomenal game, and I know. Look, a lot of people look at some of the reviews and stuff, and they're like, how are people okay with this game having bad problems with the servers, and they're okay with it, where other games have problems with the servers and they're not? I'll tell you why. Because this is fun. And other games sometimes aren't fun. This is what most of us play games for, right? And what the funny part about this is, we get away from reality to play games, and this is like satire of reality of certain things, and we love playing it because it's just so fun. It's just a fun time to play the game and give democracy. That's what it is. It's just fun.
Well, the server issues, I have theories about this. I actually think server issues end up helping a little bit. Now, there gets to a point where it's like, all right, enough's enough. Figure this out. I do think they would a little bit beyond the window of when it's helpful. I think server issues are helpful for probably less than 6 days, right? First 4 or 5 days, people are going to be more tolerant. They're the early adopters. But when the second wave of players starts coming in, that's when I was getting worried. I was like, oh boy, if they don't figure this out, this ship's going to sink as fast as it got out of port. Sure. Like, people are just going to walk away. Thank you, Siege Master, for the 5 gifted. And they've increased it now up to 700,000, which is impressive considering when they had to bump it up to like beyond, what they bump it from, like beyond 100 to like 250 to 350, and then it hit 350 in like a few minutes, and then 450, and then now they're all the way up to 700,000. And the CEO was very helpful with he's not just transparent, he's a good communicator. I think that's so important. He said, listen, it's not just a matter of us buying more capacity. It's a labor issue. We need to fix some of the back-end code for the spin-up of more capacity, because the game needs to know how to communicate that. Like, they didn't even have an AFK kick timer. They did. Right. I don't think they thought. So people are going to sit around for hours. They're like, no, they're not. Like, we don't need an AFK kick timer. The conversations they probably had were probably comical looking back. We're not going to need an AFK timer. There's not going to be that many people. You know,
that's exactly right.
It was like when the Baldur's Gate 3 CEO said, you know, high level, we'll get to like 100, 200,000 players tops, he told the tech guys. And they were like in the 800,000s. He said the tech guys were really mad at him. So that's the ramp up here has been incredible. How do you think server issues play a role with the game's virality? Because people are like, you got to get in. I can't get in. You got to get in. I want a refund. People were like, oh, they should take it from the PlayStation Store because people are buying it and they can't even play. And I was like, oh, come on, guys, chill. Like, this was such an unforeseen thing. How do you navigate that as a dev and the public and all the server issues that happen?
In my opinion, games like Diablo, which had a pretty smooth launch, they still had server issues when it came out, but for 10 million people buying that game, right? Like, you would expect those games, or like New World, right? They're owned by Amazon, and Amazon's one of the largest server places in the world, and yet they were having problems with their servers, right? Now you look at this studio, and they didn't know they were going to have this much success with the game, so they're like, all right. So as a business owner, right? You don't want, let's say you open up, and I'll do a food analogy real fast, right? You open up a new restaurant, and you don't think, right? You're like, oh, I'm expecting 100 people to show up, so you cook 100 burgers, right? You buy it, you cook them because you think you're going to be slammed, and then only 10 people show up. What do you do with those extra burgers now that right? They're done because you decided that you're going to cook them because you thought people were going to come through the door. Well, with servers, you can't buy or rent a bunch of servers and then all of a sudden nobody shows up, because then you're wasting money as a small studio. You're eating your profit, right? A lot of these guys don't make their money from the games. Like BattleBit Remaster had this problem as well. There's 3 people that made that game, and there were so many people that were playing that game. They had to get more servers. Well, they were in the hole because they didn't get paid from all the money they were making from Steam for like 45 to 60 days. So they had to take money and a loan out to get those servers up. They were very transparent as well, right? Trying to get those servers up so they didn't have that problem. So it's easy for us, the gamer, to be like, just get more servers, just get more servers. But for them, they're like, there's a lot on the back end that has to go on. It's just not buy new servers and then just, oh yeah, everyone's in now. So they want to make sure that they scale correctly. And yes, people are going to get upset. The guy came out and said, look, I would be pissed too if I bought the game and I couldn't play it. He goes, but we're going to fix this. So come back later and play it. And unfortunately, most people don't even complete games nowadays, right? They buy a game, it's in a backlog. They buy a game, they put like 5 hours into it and never come back. So yes, did people buy this game? Did they play it for like 5 to 10 hours and they're never going to touch it again? Sure. Are other people going to try it and go, yeah, I'll give it another shot and they'll have fun with it? Sure. But I think the people that like this game, just like any other thing, if you like something, you're gonna come back and play it. So yes, it does hurt them that the servers were down or having problems, but in the long run, it'll be fine, and everyone will forget about it because we all have goldfish brains, and we'll move on.
Yeah, I understood people's frustrations. Sure. I responded to people's comments and said, look, man, it's a bummer, but it's worth it. You know, just imagine that the game hasn't come out yet. Does it, I know it's frustrating. It doesn't remove the frustration, but imagine the game's release date was like next week. It's still a great game. It's still fun. There was just weeks where you couldn't play. And I get that. Frustrated expectations, unmet expectations. You have every right to say, this is not, I paid for this and I can't play. We do have to admit that we know what we're signing up for. When you hear word of mouth, this game's popping off and it's exciting and it's an online game, you gotta know that's a risk. I don't think everyone acted like, oh, well, these people bought the game and had no idea. Oh, bull. The game's been out for a week and it has a surge of players and a surge of sales. They heard the game's hot and they bought it. And you had to know, I might not be able to get in. So I'm glad they didn't remove it from the stores. I thought that would have been a complete overreaction. And PlayStation doesn't need to line up to give people refunds because the game, they push out a patch. AFK is not working anymore. You can't do that. Up to 700,000. People are getting in right away. Now, we'll see how this weekend goes. Everybody's like, hold. Like, everything's shaking. Like, please, hold it together. And I think if they can get beyond that and get over that hump, that's when the magic starts to happen. You start to see the fun from the community. They get to add stuff. Do you think they need to do anything in the realm of, hey, here's some currency, sorry about all the trouble, all the problems? Because that's a lot of people, because this game kind of took off. I don't know. I think that it usually ends up working in the game's favor because you basically drive people to the micro store and then they're more likely to spend money in it later. Do you think they do that? Do you think they should do anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, why not? Just they did the XP to make up for the first time they were doing this stuff, but then so many people came for the free XP that nobody could get in, so they completely ruined that. So I'm sure they'll put more XP in for weekends or weeks or whatever, and then they could just give you medals, right? Which they've done. They've they've given me free medals, whatever, for the inconvenience or whatnot. So even if they give you like a free page or two, you know what I mean, from the free premium, that cost them nothing but goodwill. Right, you give them medals for people to unlock weapons and armor and emotes on the free battle pass, and that's good free will, goodwill given freely to everyone. Everyone's like, oh, look, they respected us, they gave us some stuff, and that goes a long way, right? Them being just open and transparent goes a long way. I had a conversation about this a couple weeks ago when Suicide Squad, for 6 days when it came out, they had problems with their servers and they were dead, quiet, nothing. Community manager saying nothing, nobody said anything, and then 6 days later they come out where Helldivers had problems day one. Within a couple of hours they were on Twitter, they were doing notes in the Discord. Hey, we hear you, this is what's happening. Transparency goes a long way. You're not owed it as a consumer, but at the same time it's really nice when you're being heard because you have problems and they're like, yeah, we hear you, we're fixing it. So
yeah, it can't hurt. Like, I think silence is the one that always hurts. You know, there's this vacuum of like, what the heck is going on? There's been a lot of valid criticisms toward Xbox for that, right? They were like, you guys knew you were going to do this. They announced all those games in like 3 hours. And I saw a lot of Xbox guys like, why didn't you just tell us? Like, you let these rumors run. And I think the same thing applies with live service games. Like, just tell us what's going on. And I think they've done a great job with Helldivers 2 with just tell people what's happening. They're already going to be upset. And what you say, okay, it might make them a little bit more upset. It might not. But saying nothing is just never the right choice because then people just are like, well, what can you at least tell us what's happening? We don't feel like we can even rely on you for information. So I don't think they've taken a wrong step yet. There's no FOMO. All the claims about pay to win were just a bunch of people lying. This game is not pay to win. Just clickbait liars. It's like this game has none of the tropes and cliches and live service stereotypes that people hate. It's not here. I went pretty hard about this. I said, can you think of a single game that allows you to earn the items on the premium battle pass without spending money? Can you think of a game that does that? Because I can't. I can't think of any games where if you see that premium battle pass and you're level 25 and you can see all the stuff that you don't have because it's all locked.
Yep.
The only way to get it is to spend money. And these guys are like, no, you don't have to spend money. You can earn all that stuff. It's not super fast, but hey, it's a fun game. You're going to be playing a lot. I mean, plenty of people are buying the battle pass without spending money.
Yeah. I mean, I've made enough 2 times already over because I searched everything on the board. I could have bought 2 premium battle passes.
Right. Talk about Phil Spencer's comments, though. He says, he doesn't think it helps anybody. This isn't on Xbox. I'm on record as to saying I think live service games are different. When Power World came out, I was like, oh, I wish this was on PlayStation because I could play it with my kiddos. Like when Fortnite Lego hit, we all played it and we had a ball. They've made some cool updates with that game too. We might circle back, like they added fishing and stuff. Fortnite Lego kind of got into a snag. The loop didn't scale up all that well. But on that subject, I was like, oh man, Power World would be so fun with my kids. And, I said the same thing for Helldivers. I said, I don't care if Helldivers goes to Xbox. That's more players. When I do a community game night, I don't have to say, sorry, you can't play. Like when we do Fall Guys community game nights, it's like anybody can come play. Thank you, Akuta Papa, for the $2 super chat as well. Hoping we break through the 700,000 barrier. That'd be crazy. It could happen.
Do you have
talk about the exclusivity angle.
Do you have the quote that he said? Like, because I think you telling me, I think it's kind of out of context because people just hate Phil Spencer because it's Microsoft. Like, what did he say?
He was praising the game.
Because I don't know this, so that's
he was praising the game, and then he says, I don't know who it helps by that game not being on Xbox. That's a rough quote. That's essentially what he says. Okay. I don't know who it helps by the game not being on Xbox.
I think the way he's saying it is that, like, it's on PC, and if it goes on Xbox, even more people would play the game. So it's not helping anyone that it's not on Xbox. I would assume that's what he's saying, not that they're singled out because it's not on Xbox type of thing. I think that's the way people are taking it. Like, he's saying that it's a good game, but because it's not on Xbox, it's not helping anybody. And I think he's saying as an industry standard, like, it's a multiplayer game. It should be on all platforms. It should be able to be played. I don't know. I think that's the way he's saying it. I think a lot of people take a lot of things out of quote if you're a fanboy on one side or the other. Like when Jim Ryan said something, people like to take things out of quote, out of context, and same with Phil Spencer. I think Phil Spencer just wants it more places, just like he wants to put his games on multiple platforms as seen with the 4 games that they're putting out. So I don't know. That's the way I take it. If that's the way he meant it or not, I see it just more of he wants more games, more places, and you being finally putting a game on PC day and date from you as a first-party title, it doesn't help anybody, which is kind of false because it does help the people on PC. There's a lot of people on PC. Obviously, Helldivers, if it was just on PlayStation, probably would have been good. It wouldn't have the server issues, probably. Okay, and it probably would have been successful for PlayStation, but because it's on PC, it's a lot more successful. And I think Phil Spencer's like, look, if it was on Xbox, it'd even be more successful if it was on all the platforms.
For sure. And I do think a lot of the times when Phil talks or, when Jim Ryan would say stuff, it would get completely, elevated up into this massive exaggerated thing. However, there is a larger discussion going on right now that you're suddenly, and I said this would happen, I said, Xbox is going to start demonizing exclusives. They're going to act like it's bad. They're going to act like it's not good. They're the guys that are out there running the talking points are like, exclusives are bad. They've all switched. They were all about exclusives when they got Bethesda and Starfield and they get ABK and they're thinking, yeah, we're going to get exclusives. And all of a sudden, those thumbs up to turn to thumbs down. Like, no, exclusives are bad. And I don't appreciate that dialogue because I actually think exclusives do help the product and do help the end user because you end up with smaller scope project. It's more optimized. You don't have to, as people said, they wouldn't just have to develop it for the Series X. They'd also have to develop for the Series S. Now, the pushback I would put on that is I was a little hard on the Series S with respect to Helldivers 2. It'll run on a really weak PC if you go to the minimum specs on Steam. And there's a lot of similarities between PC architecture and the Xbox, right? So I'm like, listen, it probably wouldn't be that difficult to port. I think the question becomes, what's PlayStation's goal with Helldivers? Did they want this to be seen as a tentpole PlayStation live service game? Or do they say, no, the goal of a live service game is a full funnel for as long as you can do it? And if that's their mentality, then that is going to maybe see a game like Helldivers land on Xbox. If I was putting money on the table, I would think, no, PlayStation's locking this down. Do you think they try to buy Arrowhead before the end of the year? Because that's something I think they're going to try to do.
Before the end of the year? I don't know, but I can see them buying them. Absolutely. I mean, why not? I mean, they did it with Insomniac. Why wouldn't they do it with these guys?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this if they lock them down, then Helldivers is the IP they're looking for. You know what I mean? Like, everyone wants PlayStation to work with, like, what's the other one? Well, you got SOCOM, and then you also got I can't think of the damn game now.
Killzone?
Killzone. Thank you. My brain. Killzone.
I was reading chat. I wasn't ready to help you. I was like, what'd you say?
They have IPs that they're sitting on that they haven't done anything with, and this game's hot right now, right? So pick them up. Why not? I would offer them to pick them up and keep them in the studio, and that way, when Helldivers, if there is a Helldivers 3 down the road, or if it's just an online service game and it keeps going and it becomes the next Destiny, Warframe, Division type of thing, why not?
Yeah, they did it with Housemarque, with Returnal. They did it with Insomniac. I think we see an ownership of Arrowhead under PlayStation Studios soon. I actually think it happens this year, or at the very least, they're already in talks to get it done. Now, somebody's asking a question in chat. Kratos is saying, "What do you think Xbox releasing these 4 games as a gesture to show Nintendo and Sony, hey, look what we're doing. Why not you? But here's the twist: these games were to be timed exclusive." I don't think that's at all what's happening. I think Xbox is largely adapting to their standing in the market. That's their pathway to strength and profitability, is to flex their property and just to put it everywhere. Minecraft's taught them. Phil Spencer's made it very clear. Minecraft was the catalyst. Once they saw what Minecraft was doing as a multi-plat title, it was like, we need more of these. These are great. Matt Booty said there are games that are larger than any one platform, and I think when you look at a game like Helldivers 2, I think this game won't be bigger than a single. Well, it already is. It's already bigger than a single platform with the number of people that have been playing it. Well, maybe I'm sorry, not bigger than a single platform. It's bigger than it would be on a single platform, is what I meant to say. But that means it could grow to be bigger than a single platform. Like when you have that momentum of, this is so much bigger, as you said, than it would have been if it was just on a single console. And that gives it that likelihood of, who knows where the sales end up for this game. If you surpass the quantity of PlayStation 5s that are in circulation over the course of 10 years, it would take a long time to get there. But I actually think this game's not going to hit those echelons. I see this being more of they get a good 5 or 6 years out of it. Maybe they start thinking about a sequel. I don't know if they want to do the 10-year thing. I think Destiny's a bit of a cautionary tale. I think targeting 2 years, and if you make it there, reassess, is a good idea for live service games, because you can scope out the first year and then start working on second year. And if you make it, great, but like this idea of the forever game and we're going to make it 10 years, I'm just like, no, don't try to do that. Like, I think you're going to end up in where a lot of the other live service games ended up. They just end up in the bin.
Yeah. I think there's a point that Microsoft is doing what they're doing to make it look like they're the good guys. Look what Epic's doing with Fortnite, right? They're like, oh no, we're the small guys here. We're trying to get the game everywhere. Apple's the bad guy. Google's the bad guy, right? Like, that's what Epic's doing. They're putting themselves in the public eye as, we're fighting for the little guys. We're putting our game everywhere. And I think a little bit Microsoft is doing the exact same thing. They're like, yeah, we're putting our games everywhere. So they're trying to peer pressure. They're trying to peer pressure the other guys to do the exact same thing. So when it comes to the light, they're like, yeah, look, Microsoft, we're putting our games everywhere. Other guys aren't doing that, right? And I think that's the same type of mentality. Maybe that's not what they're doing, but that's what it seems like to me, right? Because that's what Epic is doing. Epic is looking like they're not the billion-dollar company either. There's like, no, we're the small guys, and these trillion-dollar companies are starting to keep us down from making more money on Fortnite, so we're trying to work it out, type of thing. Goodwill for the public eyes.
Well, where do you see this game landing with you? How are you gonna play and engage with this game rhythmically? Right now, I'm grinding. I'm playing every night with my wife for a little bit, working our way through. I do think the battle passes could maybe be. I'm not super fond of the way they're designed. It was a little confusing when I first started poking around in them, but I am enjoying that sense of progress and unlocking things. So where do you see this game kind of fitting into especially this year, 'cause this year's nuts? How are you going to be engaging with Helldivers 2?
I'm grinding. I want to get done with the regular battle pass, the free battle pass. But now that I unlocked the premium battle pass, I'm probably going to finish that as well. If I'm at 50 by the time I do those two things, then so be it. But I think first is the battle passes to complete and get the stuff. And then if I'm still liking it and not burnt out, then I'll hit 50 if I'm not already at 50 before I'm done with those passes. And then it'll all depend on what comes out, like what they add to the game as far as announcements, new gear, if they put the mech in, or if any other game comes out and interests me. Because just like when their servers were down, I went to go play a different game because I'm not going to sit there and hit 30 seconds every 30 seconds to try to get into the match. I'm just going to move on and play a different game until I can play it.
Yeah, and a little tip to people, I think this will continue to work, by the way, unless they actually institute a queuing system, because one of the community members here, Hyde, was good to point out to me. He's like, you're not actually in a queue when you're trying to get into this game. It just keeps trying again every so many seconds. That's why sometimes people will boot up and they're like, no one can get in, and they get in right away. They won the lottery. But the reason the trick works, and this works for both Steam and PlayStation 5, if you join somebody who's already in the game, it'll kind of sit on a black screen for a while, and then all of a sudden you're in the game. The reason I think that works is it creates a quasi queue where you're just attempting to connect to your buddy, and eventually the door opens because there's room, and boom, you get in. Instead of the system that they have in place, again, they did not anticipate this game being as popular as it was. So the system that they have in place is it just tries again every 30, 45, and the counter keeps going up. So it's not like you booted up the game and now you're in line and you'll get in the order that you tried. It's like, no, you're gonna. That's what people are like. I waited 5 hours to get in. Some other guys like, I got in after like 5 minutes. That's why it's not a proper queue system. Yeah,
no, it's not a queue system. It's the analogy I'll use is it's a pool, and you're trying to drain the pool with a straw. Okay, and everyone's just wedging into that entry point trying to get in, and every once in a while you'll get through and then you're in. But if you're in with a friend, someone's already in the game, they invite you and you're in the game, then you can go to your own ship and you can invite somebody else, right?
Yep.
So that's it. You're like skipping out of the pool, right? You're not going through the tube. You're jumping out of the pool and jumping into the other side, where everyone else is trying to wedge themselves because they're all sitting there pushing the button or waiting for that thing 30 seconds to go over or 50 seconds to go by, and they're all trying. It's like Black Friday trying to get through the door to get that television set when everyone's trying to get in. Everyone's pushing and shoving, and that's what's happening there. So if you're on PlayStation, it's a little annoying because a lot of people wanted to play from PlayStation side and get in with, and I'm on Steam, and we can't get them in because you have to put the code in, but they have to be in the game, and once they're in the game, they can join you at that point, but you can't bring them in if they're in that queue because you can't put them on your friends list because you have to give them the code. So Steam to Steam worked really well. PlayStation to PlayStation worked really well, but vice versa, it was not working very well.
That's good feedback. Yeah, that trick only works if it's because you have to use your friends list. You can't get access to the internal games friends list. But that's just a little tip to people out there is when the servers are acting like that, that's your way of getting in. And I think that's fine. I think that's a legitimate way to get into the game. You're essentially putting yourself in a queue. Because sometimes you get in right away with that trick, and other times you sit on that black screen for a while. Now, Zubair is suggesting that maybe every squad takes up 4 spots, whether there's 4 players or not. I think that would create the capacity, a larger capacity problem, because that means if their capacity was set to like 400,000, doesn't that mean only about 100,000 people could get in? Because then as soon as you hit 100,000, everybody's taking up 4 spots. So I don't know. That would be kind of strange if that were true. Maybe that is why it was creating problems, because like they were exceeding capacity too fast because of that. I don't know, but I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward to continuing to grind it, cover it. We're playing tonight with the community. We had a pretty big member goal, so we're still going to go forward with the stream tonight and do some fun stuff with you guys, but we fell a teeny bit short. That's okay. You guys crushed it. Thank you again, everybody who helped out. We are going to go to a VIP stream very shortly and hang out with that member tier. Every single person can come tonight, though. You do not have to be a member to come hang out and watch tonight. We are going to do a public Friday night stream, but members will get preferential treatment. And if you guys want to go crazy and get us there, we're about 75 away. But while you guys are doing that, Mike, what are you currently working on right now, content-wise, plan-wise? I saw your brother and you were doing the show last night. Let people know where they can find you.
Monday through Thursday, I stream from 10 o'clock in the morning until noon Eastern. I just cover news stories, have conversations, just BS with people about topics and whatnot. I also do uploads every single day. We also do podcasts. We do a podcast on Thursday nights called Generation X Gaming. I've been doing that for 10 years. And then gameplay, Monday through Wednesday. We've been playing Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. We've been playing Helldivers. So whatever expeditions coming out, what's it called? Mud Runners Expedition. I like those car games like Snow Runners and stuff like that. So when that game comes out, we'll probably pick that up and try it on stream and stuff. So yeah, come on and buy.
And guys, make sure and smash that like button. We had well over 600 people here. Let's try to get 300 likes before the show is over. And with Kill the Justice League, I'm assuming you're going to loop back when they go into season 1 and the Joker shows up, right?
Yeah, so I played that game just for the single player, and I said if the end game is good, then that's the the icing on top. And I played for 80 hours. So right now, because the servers are boinked, they just had a patch a couple days ago, and it made it worse. So congratulations to them. And so yeah, I'm just waiting to see when Joker comes in, and when Joker comes in, I'll start playing that again.
Yeah, it's probably, you know, a little too late to do like a show on that, but maybe we could do one in the future. I actually rolled credits with my wife, and I started to see why some people's... Thank you so much, Behemoth. He says, come on, boys, we're only 75 short. Let's get this done, and does a 10 bomb. I feel like as people were playing through the game, they were writing their reviews, and they had good things to say. I felt like the last 10 or 15%, the game doesn't really have a good, solid ending. And I feel like that's why people's final scores feel somewhat dislodged from... You said a bunch of nice things about the game, and then you gave it a 5, you know, or a 6. And so I ended the game, and I rolled credits, and I was sort of like... I was kind of I was having a blast. My wife and I played it. We rolled credits. I think I got close to 30 hours. But man, that final 10%, I don't think they landed the plane all that strongly with the way it all ended up.
See, I have a different view on it, but if you want to have a separate show on it, we can have a conversation about that.
Yeah, maybe that's a great incentive. Thank you so much, Lone Wolf, putting us 10 away from 100. If we hit 100, I do another 5. You guys might be able to do this in the final waning minutes here. I'm getting everything set up for VIP, and we're vamping on this. Yeah, maybe that's an incentive for people to bump the VIP, because I'd be curious to bat that around with you a teeny bit, just to say, man, I still think the critics were overly critical, and it got beat up kind of bad. Sure. And it didn't hit sales goals that they were hoping to hit, which that calls into question the future of the game, right? Like, are they going to be able to do all the things they wanted to do? Because I mean, you and I both know they've got 20-something. Didn't we say they had like 20-something months of content planned already?
Yeah, so it looks like they had 5 to 6 seasons ready in the pipeline, like done, and just have to make it go live.
Okay. Wait, so they've already built them, or they're spec'd out, or they're scoped out?
No, they're like done. Hence why the 10 months that they delayed the game, they were working on that. So they have it in the pipeline. So if something like this happened where they were having problems with the game, they could fix the game and already have that. So they're not chasing the tails like Marvel's Avengers did, right? They're working on the game where the content's done, and they're just, sliding it in.
Well, okay. I mean, I think my biggest concern is the way that they're handling the characters, like the new characters, because I actually think they're going to have to do more to make the Joker feel like a genuine character. I would be worried about, okay, his jumping's different, his traversal attack is different, his ultimate's different or whatever, but largely the weapons and stuff make them feel kind of homogenized. Like, I think that's one of my bigger concerns. Is like, are people... I thought, character-driven content, people will come back to play as a new character, but I got pretty settled in with King Shark, and I was like, I don't really need to play as anybody else. Do you know? Do they have plans to do that? Are going to do anything else with that? See,
I don't know if what their plans are for what I've talked about the leaker with Miller. He hasn't said anything other than what he said to everybody else on Twitter. He didn't say anything else more to me on the interview. But I think the story, this is why they're doing the Scarecrow story and the Two-Face story. There's 2 episodes per season. So when season 1 comes in, there's going to be like the Joker storyline, I guess, in there. And then there's the undertone of the episode 1 will be Scarecrow for the first 6 weeks. And then the second 6 weeks will be with Two-Face for that storyline. So I'm looking this more like a comic book. Like, you get the issue, you read the issue, and it leaves you hanging, right, at the end of the issue, because you want to get the second issue. And I think that's the way they're approaching this. I think they're approaching Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League like a comic book, where it kind of gives you that, where you didn't like the ending, but that ending leaves you hanging because they're going to start continuing the story in the next season.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'd be very interested to see where it ends up, because I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I think it's like a solid 7.5, just under an 8. Maybe with time that you could roll up to an 8, because I had a good time with it. I think Helldivers honestly made it tough for me to finish. Like, it was
Sure.
a good thing there were server issues, because I was like, well, I can't really play Helldivers then anyway. I was like, all right, babe, let's finish Kill the Justice League. But I do think Helldivers kind of walked in the room and was like, if you want to run around and shoot guns, this game's gonna let you do that. And they're very different games, obviously.
Yeah.
But did you see the crossover report on, kind of back to Helldivers 2, the top 3 games that people had been playing previously in 2024? So in 2024, if they had played that game, the top 3 games were Call of Duty, Fortnite, and Grand Theft Auto 5 on PS5. And then on Steam, it was like Power World, Baldur's Gate 3, and I forget the other one.
Okay.
So this game is hitting all across a spectrum with people. Like, it's crazy that they've got that kind of pull. Like, they've got people, they're capturing the shooter crowd on PS5.
Right.
Which is nuts.
Well, it just so happens that the shooter crowd's looking for something, and other games that were supposed to be out or were supposed to come out are delayed, right? So Helldivers landed in a really nice time frame, because the Destiny crowd is waiting for their baby to come out in June now instead of February.
Yeah, we didn't talk about the gunplay real quickly. Takashi's saying the gunplay is surprisingly very good in Helldivers 2. Where do you rank the gunplay? Because we've played a lot of shooters, you and I, over the years. Division and Borderlands and Destiny. Where do you rank the gunplay in this? Because that was something that took me by surprise as well.
It's a mix between. Speaking of Battlefront, the classic collection that they just announced, but
right,
it reminds me of Battlefront, and even somewhere between Battlefront and Division. Like, it's somewhere there. It's not 100% one or the other. It's just like kind of right in the middle. The attention to detail for stuff, like when you're running around inside the game and you have your pistol in your hand and you're running, and the guy behind you, he literally turns around and starts to shoot with that. And then the way it's sort of sluggish, right? Like when you're like diving or when you walk through certain things, the attention to detail of your character moving, it just feels good. The way the camera moves, the way you go through mud or go through trees, it slows you down. The gunplay feels really good. The sound effects are fantastic. But it's somewhere between Battlefront and Division for me.
I've seen some complaints about movement, and people want to be able to have a little bit more agility and kind of roll. And I actually think the movement is a part of the lore. Like, you're sort of a dummy diving around.
Yeah, you're a noob.
And you're real clunky. Yeah. So I actually think it works. Like, there are times where one enemy will hit you and it's over. You're not getting away, because then it's like hit. Like, you can't get away. Like, you almost get kind of stun locked. But I think it's supposed to be like that. It's not supposed to be, if you're going in and getting out clean and like nothing ever touches you or hits you, it's like you're kind of missing out on a huge aspect of what makes the game so fun, is that, you're going to die. You're going to get snagged and stuck, and you're going to get attacked. I think that's part of the appeal.
What Kevin's saying, I totally forgot about the circle. Like, each gun and the way when you shoot it and you move, I like that, where it's like that, you get that breath area of like error, and you have to move, and it's very hectic. Like, if a guy, the farther away, it's easy because you just move very slightly, but the closer they move to you, you're like swinging that gun and you're just sporadically shooting. It feels good. Just everything works together the way it is, right? I feel like if you fix one thing, it kind of loses what they're trying to do. You know what I mean? Like, if it was too crisp, if you're playing Destiny, it wouldn't feel as good to me.
Right. And I think that gives them a lot of freedom with adding new weapons, and it can be a little chaotic. The weapons don't have to be super tight, but then when a weapon is tight, like that sniper rifle, I love shooting from like super far away, because just the delayed impact and seeing it hit with the sound, we touched briefly on sound. Like, the sound design in this game, like, they just crush it. Like, it made me think of Outriders. And how I couldn't play Outriders at length. That lighting effect too, when stuff blows up, it almost blinds you. It's so good. But I couldn't play Outriders for very long. I just couldn't do it. I was like, it was almost headache inducing.
Yeah,
it was so much noise.
Bad.
Yeah, so much noise pollution. Yeah, this one's good. People in chat are saying, no, don't give us a roll. People don't want to be rolling around on the ground. I did see people saying that. They're like, the movement's bad. I can't get out of the way. I want to be able to roll. And it's like, this isn't meant to be some action adventure game where you're duck
you're
diving.
wearing a mask that you can barely see through. You know what I mean? Like you're just garbage. They're throwing you at the bugs to defend Super Earth. Come on, you're just a number to them.
Yeah.
It's all part of the lore, man.
Yeah, we touched on that, Lobo. Yeah, they make you they incentivize you switching things up. I liked using the sniper rifle. I use it as my primary. I just kept finding ammo. I didn't even use my other weapons. And yeah, the one SMG is way better than the other assault rifles. I do think some of the rifles need some help. They don't seem to punch strong enough. Purple Haze with a $5 super chat tip says, I think the engineers are having a hard time increasing server capacity on a discontinued engine. Well, they've got it up to 700,000, and they've rolled out some patches that seem to be helping. That is a question. Hopefully that outdated engine doesn't linger like a shadow over them over the next couple of years. We would hate to see that. We know that the engine frustrations and struggles with Bungie, with Destiny, and then the Slipspace engine with Halo Infinite.
Right.
Like, engines can play a significant role. I don't think this one is clunky. It feels agile enough that they've been making changes quick enough. I'm not too concerned about that. I guess it would maybe limit some of our ideas with like raids and different things that we've outlined. That might be where the engine starts to maybe constrain a little bit.
Would you, those of you that want to roll, would you take a piece of armor that'll let you roll, but you also move like 30% slower? Do you know what I mean? Like, would you take a negative to get a positive of like, you can roll now, but you also move, 10% more slow or something?
Well, they did say that the armor stats or something with armor's not working properly right now. I think it'd be pretty cool if you put on light armor and that was one of the perks, was like you get like a roll with a cooldown. But again, then the armor, you're gonna die faster. Like you're basically kind of squishy. I could get down with that. I don't know if I'd want to roll but then be slow. That would feel almost like there's a dissonance there.
I'm just saying something like there has to be a negative. Like you could do this now, but there's something else that you can't do now. It's maybe you can roll, but your accuracy's off or something. I don't know.
Yeah. You can fire the SMG behind you as you retreat. So I've heard. I've never retreated forward for free.
No, you can. You can run and you go like this. He like literally runs backwards and shoots it backwards one-handed. It's pretty cool.
That's hilarious.
I've never left.
That's the wrong scene. I was like, oh, bye, Mike. I went to the wrong scene. You've never left. You just hold and you just stay there, right? Yeah. I like that aspect of the game. Is like you don't want to retreat. So, sometimes I've had a lot of fun running from the Chargers. I think that can be some of the best gameplay, is like tightly hugging corners and getting away from Chargers. That I think that can be a lot of fun. So, well, we vamped for a little bit there while I was setting things up, but then there was a couple of topics I thought we forgot to talk about, and you guys did amazing. You guys got us within 34 members of the 3,000 goal. That's good enough for me. I'm not going to hold you guys to it because you didn't even get a talk show this morning, so I appreciate the generosity. You guys are absolutely nuts. That was awesome. So I hope to see a bunch of you tonight. Remember, it is a public stream, so make sure you're subbed to the channel. Make sure that you have notifications turned on. And if you're one of the lucky people that got gifted a membership today, man, plug into our Discord. There's a Discord link in the description below, and they do a community like chat on the weekends. That's where everybody's connecting right now to play Helldivers. So if you're wanting to play Helldivers, there's people in there playing Diablo together. There's people in there that were playing Justice League together. So take advantage of that. Somebody paid money for you to get a membership for a whole month, and you can hang out and get to know this community. And if you decide you like it, you could maybe pick up the membership for yourself. But we are going to head to a VIP stream. This is the one time in the week that we do something just for VIPs. And this is only on Friday afternoons. And then tonight is for everybody. Even non-members will be able to tune in tonight. So we're going to head over there, and my producer hops on the line, and he joins us, and we get kind of like off on a bunch of different topics. So I'm going to give you guys a link. Oh, I didn't get the link. Give me 1 second. I forgot to get the link. I'm going to put a link in chat. For the rest of you, if you can't come because you're not VIP, spend this time getting in the Discord and familiarizing yourself with the community. And I hope we see a bunch of you tonight to to hang out for some Helldivers community games. We're going to do like red light, green light, Simon Says, hide and seek. It's going to be a blast, and I hope to see you there. Thanks so much for being a VIP or higher. This is that weekly VIP segment that we do with 30 and with Creature, and he'll be on in a moment. He's joining us every Friday. We had a great talk about Helldivers 2, an amazing week on members, super generous. Lotus came in and went crazy. We ordinarily don't really talk members during that show with Mike, but people were going a little nuts, so we wanted to make sure
50 bomb.
Shout them out. Yes, yeah, he dropped a 50 and a 20. So we're going to end that show. If you're watching the tail end of the show, thanks so much for watching this Helldivers 2 review discussion. Smash that like button, and we'll see you next time.